In the Chinese transplant industry, humans are the only element that can't be fully controlled. That's why I swear by field research. And over time, I've learned that all testimony, even that which doesn't support my ongoing thesis at any given time, is valuable. Yet, I've also been observing the often skeptical Western world. That includes myself back in 2006. And all witnesses are taking a big risk. Camp refugees who observed the organ harvesting selection process or were nearly harvested themselves, as I guess we're going to be hearing from some of those today, they matter. But the testimony of a medical practitioner who was directly involved in the transplant process has a more complex level of risk, and they may matter more in some respects. Now, I'll briefly focus on these medical witnesses because there's a continuity there that's very interesting that's over time. I'm going to recap current harvesting rates one more time with feeling. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to touch on Uyghur deportation from Central Asia, and I'll close with a few personal thoughts on policy. Now, regarding the slaughter, we have two witnesses from that. 15 years ago in a Westminster hearing, Enver Tohti, a former Uyghur hospital surgeon, confessed that he used his own hands to extract the kidneys and liver of a wounded but salvageable human being on a Xinjiang execution ground. In 2013, Dr. Ke Wenjie of National Taiwan University agreed that I could publish the story of his quest for organs on behalf of his Taiwanese patients. This happened in a mainland hospital, probably Wuxi People's Hospital. When Ke expressed doubts about the quality of executed prisoner organs, his mainland counterparts assured him that all the organs will come from Falun Gong. The Xinjiang procedure, I just have to promote these things, I'm sorry, adds to this collection. In 2007, an accidental witness, Cat, that's Mr. Sugawara, was assisting his Yakuza chieftain prepare for a liver transplant in a Beijing police hospital. Wandering into the wrong room, Cat found a bound and sedated young man, wrist and ankle tendons severed. A Chinese surgeon soothingly explained to Cat that the young liver donor was Falun Gong. In 2017, Saragul Sautbe, a teacher in a Kazakh and Uyghur camp, gained exclusive access to organize the camp's medical files. A red check mark next to blood results signaled the individual had been pre-selected for harvesting. Several camp refugees that I interviewed recalled guards imposing color coding from pink vests to wristbands a few nights before the actual disappearances. In 2018, Samal, a Kazakh ethnic woman, that is a pseudonym, Samal, she was recruited by a Uyghur veterinarian to extract human intestines in preparation for the systematic extraction of organs. Why intestines? Because their workspace was in a secret medical compound 4 floors under a Uyghur and Kazakh concentration camp with substandard ventilation. And an update. Well, Dr. Ke of Taipei knew that the Falun Gong were being harvested. According to his Chinese colleagues, Ke became the teacher of ECMO to mainland China. That was, let me translate that. That is directly instructing Chinese surgeons to exploit an off-label procedure for live organ harvesting. As mayor of Taipei and as a presidential candidate for the Taiwan presidency, Ke could have been the ultimate medical witness. Instead, Ke was recently sentenced to 17 years in Taiwanese prison on corruption charges, and I'd love to see a plea deal there. Along with a hunger for medical witnesses, there is a hunger for scale. And the full publication of witness evidence in Chapter 5 concludes 2.5 to 5% forced disappearance rate in the camps, average age 28 to 29, specifications taken at night, final blood DNA test to establish health and identity. Assuming 1 million in the Xinjiang camps, forced labor factories, and other carceral environments, that's 25,000 to 50,000 Uyghurs, Kazakhs, and other Turkic groups harvested per year. 2 to 3 organs extracted per individual to reach the minimum requirements for China's transplant industry volume. 60,000 successful transplants per year. That means a minimum cumulative death total in Xinjiang of over 200,000 now and counting. Now, some analysts recently speculated that the camps are closing, and it may be inside baseball, but I would welcome a question on that. Either way, forced labor organs are the same as concentration camp organs, and per capita medical attention that Xinjiang receives is extraordinary. Beijing recently pledged 6 more human organ transplantation medical institutions in the region by 2030. Now, the roundup of Uyghurs from China's neighbors is also extraordinary. My interviews established that 88% of Tajikistan's Uyghurs and 87% of Kyrgyzstan's Uyghurs have been deported back to Xinjiang. I also documented a new Chinese military base just north of Tajikistan's Kolma Pass, about 30 miles from a Tajik mine speculated to contain 50% of the world's uranium. The energy and mineral reserves of the Pamir and Kyrgyz mountain ranges are the South China Sea of China's western frontier. With Russia at war, without a U.S. presence, a new 9-dash line is theoretically possible. Regarding policy, we'll close with this. I like all the bills, but I support passing the Stop Forced Organ Harvesting Act first because it follows the surgical lead. The International Society for Heart and Lung Transplantation put the Chinese transplant industry and implicitly the Transplantation Society on notice with an academic boycott of China in 2022. Withdrawal of legitimacy by the political side should now be immediate and comprehensive. Nothing changes without embarrassment and trauma. One day after my press conference on Dr. Ke, Taiwanese medical authorities withdrew immunosuppressive drug coverage for Taiwanese patients who received Chinese organs. We could do that here. And instead of attempting to police the entire import-export medical industry, we could immediately investigate Thermo Fisher for providing the DNA test used on an estimated 10 million Uyghurs and Kazakhs. A word on limitations. The party responds to embarrassment by hiding, adapting, altering the production process, and adding new layers of complexity. We've seen this in forced labor. Beijing loves games, so we might need to consider changing the stakes of the game. I don't have a 20-point plan here, just a parting thought. Falun Gong is a Han Chinese majority Chinese spiritual movement, and they have no choice. Their sacred mission is to change China, and they deserve our support. Yet small nations rise, often it's a delayed response when mass murder and wanton neglect have placed their future survival as a people in question. The potato famine, Ireland, Ukraine, Stalin's mass starvation, Israel, the gas chambers, East Turkestan, organ harvesting. Re-entering history is a bloody affair, yet these nations came back from the dead. Even if it begins as a cynical negotiation tactic, a tacit threat, a Uyghur state, even a democratic Uyghur state, is possible, and the liberation of Central Asia is also possible. For the party, that's the nightmare scenario. And the most improbable scenario of all is the systematic reform of the Chinese transplant system. But if our first objective is to staunch the bleeding, apply immediate and consistent pressure, pass this bill. Thank you.